Good evening everyone, welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. We are going to be having a little bit of chat and a little bit of colouring in Ticket to Dreams by Karolina Kubikowska. Once again I apologise for the groaning and grumping you can hear in the background. I have Jock, who is our oldest collie, playing with Pip, who is the puppy, on the floor. My main point is that they are entertained, therefore I can get on with doing this video. So I have picked out a picture. I have been dying to colour in this for some time now, and I have picked out this picture here. It's going to be one of those nights, and it is this owl. I'll just get some light on the subject here. Just to mix things up a little bit, because of the type of paper that is in this book, it is really thick. It's almost, well, it is card really. I've decided to go with some Inktense pencils just for a little change, so I've picked out some colours and whatnot, and I am just going to make a start. I am really excited about this, it's quite sad. So I've got a scrap of paper here, and that's just to wipe my water brush on. I'll zoom in a little bit now. I love this. Oh, I love the sketchy style of this book. It's really cool. Makes me happy. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. So in the wonderful world of Gem at the Colour Cave, I finished my race. That was last Friday, and it was actually the worst 5k I have ever run in my entire life. It was one of those ones where it was just kind of doomed from the start, and I'd like to point out at this juncture that my beginner girls that I had running, they did extremely well. All of them did extremely well, and everything went well for them. Things just did not go well for me. However, as I say, we were kind of doomed from the start. I had two of the girls came to my house. I was driving, so two of the girls travelled in from the town up to my house, and we picked up the third girl on the way past, which was absolutely fine. You know, that's kind of the sort of thing that you do. And we got out of our road end. I stay on a farm, and we got less than a mile down the road, and there was an accident on the road, and it happened literally right in front of us. So we sat for a minute or two, and I said to the girls, I said, it's okay, don't worry, because we've got absolutely loads of time. I mean, we were leaving with absolute buckets of time, so I wasn't overly concerned. So we sat to wait and see what was going to happen, and a police officer came towards us and started waving at us to turn round, and that they were going to close the road. So, you know, there's not much you can do about that. That's just one of those things. And the sort of reroute wasn't too bad, so we thought, yeah, okay. So we went round the other way, which took us an extra like 20 minutes, because obviously there was a fair amount of traffic piled up by this point, and we had to just sort of sit in it while everyone navigated round. Now these are country roads, as I say, I stay on a farm, so it's you know, it's not like you're onto a motorway and you can just get going. We had to sit at this junction for a little while, so that was fine. We were singing along to the radio, one thing and another, no problem at all. So we picked up our fourth and final member of our little squad, and we toddled on, and it was about an hour's travelling time for us to get to the place where the race was, which is the Kelpies. And for those of you that don't know what the Kelpies are, they are absolutely gigantic metal sculptures of horses' heads, and they're kind of like a lattice work, so at night time they are lit up from the inside, and they look absolutely spectacular, and they are huge. What I'm going to do is, I did get some pictures from the race, so there is a picture of the Kelpies. I'll pop it in at the end of the video if anybody wants to hang about to see what they are. They are quite something. They are a spectacle. So we were about an hour's travelling time, which, you know, wasn't too much of a concern for me. I was like, yeah, everything will be fine. And we went to go down onto the motorway, and the slip road was closed. Now by this time it had started to rain, and it was quite light. It was rain forecast again. We kind of knew that was happening. We're kind of used to it. And I thought, right, okay, no, that's fine. And then I was starting to think to myself, you know, is someone trying to tell me something here? Maybe I'm not supposed to run this race. So we went round the diversion, and because of that, the way that I would normally travel to that area didn't make sense anymore. And I thought, I'm going to have to try and figure out the best route. So I was asking the girls, because the girls are all from the area, you know, they were all sort of born and raised here, whereas I'm not. I've only lived here 2.5 years. So they all sort of ummed and ahed and kind of said, oh no, go this way, and someone said, no, you need to go this way. So we decided to put our sat nav on and just go the way that the sat nav took us, which incidentally was the way that I would have gone. So I thought, right, that's okay, at least it makes sense in my head, I'm not going to worry about it too much. And on we went. We hit 3 sets of roadworks. Now by this point it's getting later and later, and I'm thinking, you know, we're getting to the point where it's going to be a rush. So we motored on as best we could, sat through some roadworks. There was another road closure further up, and that was for roadworks. So we then had to find another route, but this time the sat nav was taking us a completely and utterly nonsensical route, and every single one of us knew it. So we decided to ignore that and take our own route. By this point I'm starting to get a bit stressed out, and I'm saying to the girls, we're going to miss the warm-up. At the start of organised races, they quite often have some sort of fitness instructor-y type person doing a warm-up, and it's in part to get a good sort of atmosphere going and in part to warm you up. Now this is particularly important because we were running at night. It is November. Not particularly warm outside, but on top of that as well, this particular evening the forecast was not good. It was windy and it was wet. So taking all that can you hear those two? They're so funny. Taking all that into consideration, I wasn't all that keen on missing the warm-up. However, if push came to shove, I knew we would be able to forego the warm-up as long as we could get to the start line on time. There's a few other hoops that you've got to jump through. You can't just walk straight in and go to the start line. You have to let them know that you're there. You get a race number. It's like a paper number, and it's got a timing chip in it. You've got to pin that to whatever it is you're running in clothes-wise, and they give you a head torch at the start of the race because you're running in the dark. So all this is sort of swirling about in my brain, and we came to a sort of fork in the road, and one way was telling us the name of the town, which is Falkirk, and the sat nav, which was still sort of chuntering away in the background, had rerouted us again and was telling us to go in the opposite direction. So in our infinite wisdom, we also decided to ignore that because it had been wrong on the previous occasion, and we thought we'll go the way that we know. So that was yet another sort of problem, and the route that we had chosen, it wasn't necessarily the wrong way. However, a car had broken down in front of us and was blocking both sides of the road, so there was no traffic going in either direction. Now by this point it's about 15 minutes before the race starts. We're on the outskirts of where we need to be, but we still need to get parked, walk through, do all the aforementioned bits and pieces and get to the start line. So by this point the girls are like trying to calm me down, and I'm really frustrated because I'm sitting at the wheel of a car and I can't do anything about it. And we got round the breakdown eventually and we got going. By the time we parked the car, we actually had to run, which is quite ironic. We had to run to the start line. The pens are numbered. They ask you for an estimated finish time, and they do a staggered start, so the fastest people go first, and then the pens, which are done by colour, are slower and slower the further back. So naturally they call the quickest pens first. Now I was in the second pen from the front, so if anyone was going to miss the start of the race, it was going to be me. And we literally got our head torches, and the announcer started calling forward the white pen, which is the first pen, and I was like, guys, I need to get to the other end of this park now, or else I'm going to miss the start line. So needless to say, by the time I got there and actually got into my pen, I wasn't in a great frame of mind. I was really, really stressed out. I was cold and I was wet already, and we hadn't actually done anything yet. So I sort of stood and took a couple of deep breaths, and you always get a little bit nervous at the start of the race. Doesn't matter how many races you've run, and I've run a lot. You still get this sort of sense of anticipation, and you know, you get this sort of jangly nerves. So I'm standing taking deep breaths and trying to sort of gather myself together, and this lovely lady standing beside me sort of leant over to me and she went, "Are you all right?" And I just burst out laughing, and I said to her, I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I says, "We were just really stressed getting here, and I actually didn't think I was going to make the start of the race." And she's like, "It's okay, you're here now, you'll be fine, don't worry." And she was just really, really nice to me, and it was so lovely that a complete stranger would, you know, would do that. And, you know, she was obviously starting the race as well and trying to, you know, everyone makes their own sort of preparations, as it were. But it was nice that she kind of took the time out just to see if I was okay, because my face must have been an absolute picture. So anyway, the start gun went off and off we went, and 5 kilometres is 3.1 miles, and approximately half a mile in, I started to get a really bad pain in my side, and it just felt like a stitch. And I've run, you know, further distances than that with a stitch, and I knew that I would probably run it off and it would ease off if I kept going. So I slowed down a little bit, so I was kind of off pace, and that stitch stayed with me the entire race. I could not shake it off no matter what I did, and at one point I was down to like a baby jog because it was that painful, and I thought I was going to have to stop and walk. And amongst all this, I'm getting battered by wind and rain. So, dear, I got round to the finish line, and one of the girls that was running her first race, her husband was there, and he was absolutely screaming at me. He was basically just heckling me, and he's going, "Come on, Jem, get a move on." And it kind of made me chuckle a wee bit, and it cheered me up. So I managed to kind of suck it up a little bit, and I got across the finish line without having to walk. However, I was about a minute and a half slower than my expected time, so it was a little bit disappointing for me. But it's one of those ones. It is the worst race that I've ever run in my life, but it's one of those ones where you can't let it get to you too much. There'll be other races, and I'm sure I'll perform better in future races, but it was just a bit of a letdown after everything that happened. So after I got across the finish line, I went and met my friend's husband, and her mum and dad were there as well, and I was having a chat to them. So we just waited for the others to, you know, to get across the finish line. So all in all 3 of my girls finished, which was awesome. One girl finished not far behind me, which was amazing for our first ever race, and another girl took 5 minutes off her time from last year. Last year she kind of walked it, she didn't actually run it, but this year was her first year properly running it, and she took 5 minutes off her time, which is absolutely amazing. And the third girl, she did it without having to stop, so that was amazing as well. So I'm super proud of my girls. The training that they've done and the effort they've put in has obviously paid off. It's just a shame that I couldn't you know, I couldn't lead by example. Well, I did, I suppose I did in a way, but yeah, so that was a bit deflating. As I say, I'll pop some pictures in at the end if you want to see us at the race. I did have my flashing gloves on, and they were commented and remarked upon by many, and they were suitably impressed, and nobody else had a pair on, so that was me happy. So that was the saga of my race. It's just one of those things, though, again, as you become a little bit more of an experienced runner, you tend to let things like that not get to you. If you're a relatively new runner, things like that can really knock your confidence. But I know myself, I have good runs and bad runs, it doesn't matter whether it's a race or not, and it just wasn't my night, which is absolutely fine. It's not as if I made a fool of myself or embarrassed myself. I was still rounding a fairly respectable time, so, you know, that's just one of those things. All in all, though, I mean, normally it's good fun. I just didn't find it particularly good fun on this occasion. Oh my. So yeah, that was that. Never mind. So needless to say, I am not booking any more races anytime soon. I generally don't at this time of the year. It's the wrong season for it, and running about in the Scottish winter's just not, it's not that much fun really. So I am planning on it's kind of important for me to running is important to me anyway, because I find it helps my mental health an awful lot. And during the winter I definitely need some sort of motivator to keep, you know, to keep me going through the winter months, because it's really easy to get up in the morning when it's absolutely minging outside and go, oh, do you know what, nah, I'll just not bother today. And I've signed up for what they call a virtual race. So basically you sign up online and you commit to doing a certain distance or a certain type of race or run, but you do it on your own time, and all you do is you send them evidence that you have done it. So with the joys of modern technology, we all have GPS watches and activity trackers and all that kind of thing now. So basically you can use your running watch or your Fitbit or whatever it is you have, or even an app on your phone, to track the miles that you're doing. And when you have completed the challenge, you send off that information and they send you your medal, and sometimes some of them give you t-shirts and things. So up until now I have been doing the race at your pace challenges. Now they are online, so if you're interested in running or even walking, you get them for walking as well. I have been doing their challenges and they go up in increments of 25 miles per month. So the lowest medal that you can get is for 25 miles in the month, which I think is perfect for beginners and walkers alike. And they go up in 25 mile increments. So the last one I did was 75 miles in the month, which is getting up to be quite a reasonable mileage. And I've decided for December I am going to go for it and try and get my 100 mile medal. So that's going to be interesting. I reckon I can do it. In the grand scheme of things, if I was training for a long race, like say a half marathon or something, I would easily cover that mileage in a month. However, as I'm not training for anything and haven't been, my mileage, my weekly mileage hasn't been that high, so I'm going to have to bump it up now. But as I say, it gives me something to work towards. So that is my running plan for the rest of the year, which is quite nice. I do have a big medal board hanging in my hallway that's got all my race medals on it. One of the things you quite often get at the end of the race, you get like a goodie bag as well as your medal, and quite often they give you a bottle of water and a banana. So my medal board says along the top, seems like an awful lot of work for a banana. So that's a little bit of runner humour there for you. I just want to talk a little bit about what I'm doing here for a minute now. I've rattled on about running for long enough. I've decided on quite an obscure colour set for the leaves. I've got like a yellow colour, a green and a sort of dark greeny blue. Now the reason I've picked these colours is, although it is a nighttime scene, you can imagine that the light would be quite muted, but the bulk of the owl I'm going to be doing in brown, so I wanted plenty of colour around the outside just to have that nice contrast and make the picture a little bit more interesting. So that's kind of what I'm going for, in case all of you are thinking, what the heck is she doing? So we'll go for that. That's all fine and well. Puppy update. Pip is now 13 weeks old. We are almost done with the house training, which is amazing because your life is instantly so much better when you don't have to clean up puddles of puppy pee, as I'm sure plenty of you are already aware. So she's coming along nicely. She's still not allowed outside. Well, when I say outside, out with the garden. She is going for her second set of injections next Monday, and then she has to wait another week before we can take her out into the big bad world. So we are looking forward to that day. Now that she is a bit bigger, she's not sleeping as much during the day, and she is absolutely full of beans, and she doesn't have a great many means of expending that energy, excuse me, and especially being a collie, there is a lot of that energy. So we're exercising her in the garden, but it's just not enough for her. She needs to get out and she needs to run. At night time, we call it our daft half hour. She tears around the house, doing laps around the house, and if all their doors are open, she will literally sprint from room to room. and like run in a tight circle, skid round and then go back in the opposite direction. It is absolutely hilarious, and quite often she collides with things on her way round as well, which which makes me laugh. I shouldn't really laugh at her because she bumps into things, but it is highly entertaining. So in the evening my husband does not need to put the TV on, he just sits and watches the puppy. But she is getting big. She's a lot bigger than our Jack Russell now, which is not pleasing our Jack Russell, because Pip wants to play with Woo and Woo does not want to play because she's old and grumpy. But Pip's at the stage where she can not overpower her, but she can kind of like trample all over the top of her. So Jack Russell is not amused, and she just kind of like grumps about, and you know, in a sort of old lady grumpy fashion. But I'm sure they'll be fine. They're actually getting on reasonably well. The house is quite harmonious. It wasn't to begin with, but Jock and Pip are now getting along really well, which is amazing. It's so nice, and she just loves him. She follows him about everywhere and always wants to be with him and always wants to play with him. So that's pretty awesome. I'm not really happy about my blue stripe here. It's too blue, so I'm going to wait until that dries, and I'm going to go back over it with the green and just darken it down a little bit, but I have to wait till it dries before I can do that. Okay, I'm going to move down here now, I think. I'm just going to work my way down slowly. So yeah, in other news, what else is happening? I am giving up part of my job role for what I call my proper job in my agricultural consulting type things. One of the things that I do is go out to farms and take milk samples, and I have decided to call time on that endeavour. I've been doing it for a number of years now, and there comes a point where you don't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning anymore and get covered in cow poo while you take milk samples, and I am at that stage. It is not a glamorous job. It is well paid, but it is extremely hard work. It's a very physical job, and as I say, absolutely nothing glamorous about it at all. So I've decided that I shall put my efforts elsewhere. I do have other work to replace it. It's not as if it's going to give me any free time or anything. I have better paid, less smelly work to replace it with. So I'm not really losing out. I've just decided to, you know, take a bit of an easier route in life. I was getting to the point just recently, between the pup and the other parts of my job, I do a bit of disease advisory for farmers. That's kind of like my main job. And things in the farm at home, plus the YouTube channel. I just felt I was very stretched, and I was quite harassed, and I kind of said to myself, it doesn't need to be this way. There is no reason for you to put this amount of stress on yourself. So that was kind of the conclusion I've come to. So I'm going to continue until the end of the year, until the company that I do work for can get a replacement, and I shall pass the baton, as it were. There's another running reference, I didn't even mean that. And hopefully I can enjoy not having to get up at silly o'clock in the morning. That's still not dry. So there we go. I think this is a flower down here. I don't think these are leaves, I think they're petals. I'm going to go with that. Anyway, I'll start my leaves up on this side now as well. So yeah, there's quite a lot of changes and things going on. My parents are coming to visit at the end of the month, and I'm kind of hoping that I can rope Papa Jem into having some fun with the 3D pen. If you haven't seen the 3D pen video, I shall link it up in the corner for you now, and I'll stick a link in the description if you want to watch it later. My father is really into stuff like that, and he seems to think that he can do a much better job than I did on my first attempt with it. So I'm kind of going to hold him to that, and I'll maybe, like, you know, I'll ply him with wine or something first, and then I'm going to see if he'll have a go, and I am going to film it, and it will be going up on the channel for all and sundry to see. My brother does subscribe to the channel. Hello Kev, hope you're well. And I would actually quite like for my brother to see that effort as well. He's that would tickle him. I know that would tickle him. So we'll see. I'll see if I can persuade him. If not, definitely at Christmas. I will ply him with wine at Christmas, because my parents always come to us for Christmas as well. And I'll definitely have a 3D pen video featuring Papa Jem. after Christmas, which you say it'll be jolly, it'll be good fun. My dad's usually quite a good sport, but we'll see. I don't know how camera shy he's going to be. So yeah, they're coming, basically they're just coming to see Pip because they haven't met Pip yet, and my mum and dad both really like dogs, but they're just not keen on having one of their own. They prefer to do the we like animals by proxy, whereby they can come and play with them and then hand them back. It's a bit like grandchildren, I suppose. So I'm looking forward to seeing them because I haven't seen my dad in quite a while actually. My mum's been up. In fact, the last time I saw my dad was my wedding, which was July, so it'll be good to see him catch up. My dad and I are very, very similar, to the point where if we spend too much time in each other's company, we start to fight. And it is that horrible, horrible, fiery Italian temper, and it can get quite nasty. It used to make my mum cry when I stayed at home. When Dad and I used to start fighting, my mum used to get really upset and cry and shout at us both. But the thing about our temper is Dad and I, we both have an explosive temper, and we can say some really like terrible, terrible, terrible things, and people are quite alarmed by it. Number one, that we could both be so venomous and so vicious, but just the sheer aggression and the shouting and the you know, the hand gestures, or the hands are going the whole time. People find it quite sort of intimidating, and they try and get as far away from it as possible. But what you've got to take into consideration, if you ever see anything like that, or you know someone like that, it's all bluster. My dad and I can be absolutely roaring and bawling at each other, and 5 minutes later it is over. There are no grudges held, and it's like, do you want a cup of tea? Yeah, I'd love one. Okay, I'll put the kettle on. And that's it, it's done. We've got it out our system. We've said what we want to say. We've simmered down. And if we ever say anything like really, really nasty, I will always go back and apologise and say, I didn't mean that. That was a terrible thing to say. You know, I'm sorry. And that is something, that is the difference between my father and I. My dad comes from obviously an older, much more old-fashioned generation where men never admit that they're wrong. And it's one of the things that I pride myself on, because people often say, you know, one of the not so nice things about me is the fact that I have a terrible temper. But I've tried to make myself a better person. I can't help it when I lose my temper like that. I physically can't control it. However, I would never physically hurt someone when I just shout a lot. But when I do step over the line, I know I've stepped over the line, and I will always go back and apologise, especially if it's someone that's not used to my temper. Even if whatever it is not my fault, I will always go back and apologise and make things good. And I think that's a really important part of dealing with, you know, having that kind of temper. And well, it's really important to me anyway. And my husband pokes fun at me for it. He's obviously used to my explosive temper, and he is so laid back, and he basically just ignores me, and he'll say, go and calm down, I'll speak to you in 20 minutes, and I'll come back in 20 minutes, and he'll put, you know, stick out his bottom lip, and he'll say to me, do you feel better now? And I also stick out my bottom lip and nod my head and go, I'm sorry. And he just laughs. He knows that there's no, you know, there's no real meaning in whatever it is I'm shouting about and whatever I'm saying to him. He's very, 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 very understanding that way, but he kind of knew that from the get-go. And weirdly, he says it's one of the things he actually likes about me is the fact that I'm quite fiery. I disagree entirely. I think it's a terrible, horrible trait to have in a person. But I think that's probably why. They do say the opposites attract, but I think that's probably one of the reasons why. You know, I admire my husband, and I respect him a lot because he is very good at holding his temper. When he does blow, it is horrendous, but it only happens like once every 3 years or something. So, but if you are in his wake when that happens, you will not survive to tell the tale. Whereas I rant and rave about 4 or 5 times a week, but I rant and rave and then it's done and I feel better and everything's out in the open, and you know, and it's just difference really. But yeah, Dad and I, when we get started, that can be quite scary. So woe betide anyone who crosses me. It's just one of those things though. I think when you when you are aware of your flaws, and I think it's important to be aware of your flaws, if you can recognise them and admit to them and admit that there is a horrible part of your personality, at least you can go some ways of, you know, to dealing with it or avoiding it or whatever. And I think it's been easy for me because I saw it in my dad, and I've always known it in my dad, and I was absolutely horrified when I realised I turned out the same way. So I do try really hard. I try really hard not to lose my temper, but say if I do, I honestly and truly cannot control it. It like bubbles up inside me and then it just erupts, and it is messy. I've lost count of the number of times me and my dad have made my mum cry. It sounds terrible. She's like, oh, stop shouting. And we're all calling each other all the most horrible things, you know, known to man. And even to this day, if anyone ever asks her, she's like, oh, I used to hate it when they both started fighting. It's terrible. It's horrible to listen to. There were things thrown at one point. Yeah, plates and things like that. Although my mum did tell me once, and her and my dad laugh about it now, I have no idea what it was my dad had done wrong, but it was something pretty bad, and my mum lost her temper. And my mum is one of these silent grudge holder types, which absolutely drives me bananas. I absolutely hate it. She goes really quiet, she gives you the silent treatment, and that can go on for days, and she will not apologise, and it drives me batty. But anyway, this particular time it had gone past that point and my mum just absolutely lost the rag. And she threw a tin of furniture polish at my dad. I don't know, she must have had it in her hand. I don't know whether she'd been doing housework or whatever, but she had a can of like Mr. Sheen or something in her hand, and she just launched it at him. He ducked, so she missed, but it hit something else and broke something else. And again, I can't remember, this was years ago, I can't remember what it was, but I'd heard it from upstairs, and I came running down the stairs because I thought my mum had hurt herself, and my mum's standing in the kitchen screaming it, and she was like pink in the face at my dad, and I was like, oh, I've never seen mum like that before. That was quite surprising, it really was. I'm just going to nip back over here now and try and fix my little leaf. I seem to be minus a puppy. I shall return. I'm just going to go and find out where she's gone and make sure she's not getting into any mischief. No, we're okay, we're good. She is asleep in the Jack Russell's bed. The Jack Russell is not in her bed, just FYI. She seems to like her bed. It is quite soft and plush. Again, with her being an older dog, she's got a lot more padding in her bed than the collies do. And I can hear my husband as well. I was just checking my husband was in one piece after work, and he's going to relax on the sofa for a while. So I shall leave him to get on with that, and that means I can continue chatting to you guys. I just love the paper in this book. I really, really do. It takes just about everything, which is amazing, because I'm one of these people that I kind of use watercolour pencils, or you know, these Inktense pencils very sparingly in colouring books, because I don't like a lot of buckling in the paper. So I don't use these types of pencils in colouring books very often at all. So this is really nice just to be able to go for it and go to town. Try and get in here. I'm really not a fan of spiral bound books though, however. See this getting in between all the little gaps, I absolutely hate it. Like, I can't get in there. What am I going to do with that? That's going to just be white. Not a fan. But it's kind of weird, because I know a lot of people like to spiral bind their books because it makes them lie flat, but I don't have the patience to mess about in between all these little gaps. I just rather not. However, this book is an exception because it is such a nice book. To the paper quality is just outstanding, and it is a little bit different. I like it a lot. I'm sure you all know by now that I quite like quirky, different colouring books. That's right up my street. Get in there. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about this, I don't think. Oh. There, that'll do. Oh, there's loads of them down here as well. Just wang some pencil down and see how we get on. from there and in here. Yeah. Yeah, so just to finish off the temper conversation, yeah, my mum's just, oh man, she gives you the silent treatment and it drives me insane, absolutely insane. And you're supposed to know how to fix it and what's wrong with her without her actually saying anything, which is just, it's just irritating. It's just so infuriating. And I'm actually, in that sense, I'm kind of glad that I'm more like my dad than my mum. And I don't want anyone to ever tell him that I've said that. Oh dear. One of the really nice things about using these Inktense pencils is that you do not have to be careful if you're going to activate them with water anyway. You do not have to be careful about where you're putting them down. As long as you've got your colours in the general area that you want, then the water kind of does the rest of the work for you. It's kind of cool. I kind of like it. They're so vivid as well. I really like them. I actually like them better than my watercolour pencils. It does depend on what I'm doing though. Like when I'm drawing things and I want that sort of painterly or slightly painterly look, I do prefer using watercolour pencils. But that, as I say, it depends on the subject matter. If it's something like a, you know, if it's like a landscape or something, or I'm drawing an animal, drawing wildlife, then I would tend to use my watercolour pencils because the colours are a bit more kind of earthy and natural looking. But I do like the Inktense pencils, they're pretty good. And there's the phone. Oh, husband has the phone. God, it's all go tonight. Normally this house is really quiet and I get peace to do things like this, but tonight is obviously not the night. The other thing that I'm doing later on this evening is I am going to my Weight Watchers class, and this is the first time I'll have seen the girls since the race, so it'll be nice to see them, and I'm sure we'll be mulling it all over and picking it apart. I'll just be sitting there going, yeah, it was terrible. But it's one of those things, I think I've talked about this before. See, this is a problem with these videos. I never know what I've spoken about and what I've not spoken about. I could be repeating myself for all I know. I am a person with my stature, with my build. I am a classic short, fat Italian, and I hate it. And I have fought with my weight my entire adult life. I have never been a skinny person. I will never be a skinny person. However, that does not mean that I need to be overweight. So I am what I call a Weight Watcher for life. If I stop watching what I eat, and if I don't have the discipline of knowing that somebody is going to see me step on a set of scales, it all goes to hell in a handbasket. And I have resigned myself to the fact that whether I'm a healthy weight or not, and I have been huge, I have been unwell and underweight, and I have been everything in between. I have resigned myself to the fact that it doesn't matter what weight I am, I need to stay at Weight Watchers. And it's just one of the things that I do, and I kind of work it into my daily life. See, the running helps. Not that running fixes your weight problems if you have weight problems, but it definitely helps. Exercise has never been an issue for me. I like exercising. My problem is that I cannot control what I put in my mouth. I love alcohol, I love wine, I love beer, I love good food, I love lots of good food. The volume of food that I can eat, you know, that I can physically put away is that of a hard-working man that's 6 foot odd, i.e. my husband. I have a huge appetite, and it's something I've got to try very hard to control. My dad calls it, I can't say the word, it's a naughty word, but he calls it the Italian fat B word gene, and we all have it and we all do it. And when you're only a little person like me, it goes straight on your hips and your thighs and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I actually quite enjoy going to the class, though. It's nice to have like-minded people, because there are other people there that, you know, that if they don't have the discipline of getting on the scales, then they know they're going to put on weight. If I wasn't at Weight Watchers, I dread to think what weight I would be, because I think my weight would just steadily increase and I would easily be 350 pounds, you know, maybe more than that. So it's something that's quite important to me, and I've had people say to me, although I am quite heavy just now, I am still trying to take off my honeymoon weight, which is painful, and people have said to me, you don't need to go to Weight Watchers, you're not fat. And I say to people, I'm not fat, I'm overweight, but if I didn't go to Weight Watchers, I would be fat. And for people that have never had a weight problem, they don't understand that, they don't get it, and I don't expect them to. But I just kind of hate people saying to me, oh, what are you doing that for? It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, they're just there to make money. Yeah, I absolutely detest that. As I say, I have been at both ends of the spectrum, and after I had surgery, I put on a lot of weight. It was due to medication and being inactive. I physically couldn't run, I couldn't walk, and I couldn't even change my own bed by the end up just before I had my surgery. And I was deeply, deeply depressed about it, because I had spent a long time losing a lot of weight and I was quite trim and quite fit. And I hate people assuming things about me because of it. It really, really annoys me, and people need to just butt out. There was a point where I had lost a substantial amount of weight. I was within a healthy BMI, and I was quite well within it, and I wasn't skinny. As I said, I've never been skinny, and I'm never going to be skinny, but someone actually said to me, you don't suit being thin, you're meant to be a cuddly person. And it took every ounce of my being not to, number one, not to lose my temper, back to the previous conversation, but also not to thump them, because it's just, you don't say that to people. It's almost like jealousy, and I just find it really irritating. And I hate how past remarkable people are, especially in the media and like on like social media and in the press. People like fat shaming and skinny shaming, and it's awful. You would never, if you have any set of manners or principles in your being, you wouldn't walk up to a random person in the street and say you're really fat, or you're far too skinny, you need to eat something. You just don't do that. You don't know people's circumstances, you don't know their family history. You know, what gives you the right to do that and say that to someone? I absolutely hate it. I'm also a firm believer in being healthy though, and I don't agree with, you see there's plenty of plus size models that are very, very, very overweight, and you know that they're saying like, oh, really good for you, you know, you're empowering large women. Well, yeah, okay, if that's what you think, then fine, but you are on a guaranteed course for a heart attack, and that's not a good message to send out, that that's okay and that's socially acceptable. It's not. People come in different shapes and sizes, and yeah, I'm a prime example of that, because I am not a normal shape in inverted commas, and when I say that, I mean the fashion industry's idea of being straight up and down. I'm far from that, and that's okay. And no one's saying that if you are, you know, you have to be this weight or you have to be this clothes size, but you have to be healthy for your frame and your genetic makeup, and that's really what I aim for. That's, you know, that is my sort of goal, and I know when I'm healthy, because when I look after myself and I eat well, I'll lose weight to a certain point, and then all of a sudden I stop losing weight, and that is my body telling me that I have reached an optimum weight without starving myself. And I can still go and have, you know, an odd night out and go out for a meal or something, and I'm not gonna, you know, pile on like 2.5 stone. And I don't think people listen to their bodies, and I think people pay far too much attention to what goes on in the media and what they see online on Instagram and whatever, and I'm totally not into that. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I'm not on a crusade about it or anything. I need to be happy in my own skin, and that's really what I'm aiming to achieve. But say having like 8 pounds of of honeymoon weight to shift is just not helping right now. I'm a little bit deflated about that, but it was absolutely worth it. It's going to take me a long time to get rid of it though. But hey ho, life's too short sometimes. So yeah, I strongly urge people though to be active, you know, get some exercise. Drink in moderation if you are, I was going to say if you are an alcoholic. No, don't drink in moderation if you're an alcoholic. If you like an alcoholic drink, try and drink in moderation. And try and do everything in moderation, really. Try and cook some good home cooked food. Don't live on takeaways and microwave meals. But it's easier said than done sometimes, and I am a person that knows that life gets in the way of these things. But as long as you keep trying, and I say that to people as well, you know, people are like, oh, if you've been at Weight Watchers for X amount of years, why are you overweight? And I'm like, well, because life happens, but you've got to keep trying and you've got to keep at it, because if you don't, you end up getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I have not got bigger and bigger and bigger, which is nice. So that is my theory, and I am sticking to it. I say for the amount of money that it costs me every week, I can afford it. So why would I not do it? But that's it. I'm not advocating Weight Watchers specifically. That's just, I've found that works for me. But my testament to that is that I have lost a substantial amount of weight, and I've done it twice now. The first time I went to Weight Watchers, I was very young and I was very, very overweight. I was shockingly overweight, and I lost all the weight. But see, when I needed surgery, I put a lot of weight on, so I've actually taken off almost the same amount of weight twice, and I've done that with the help of Weight Watchers, so it does work. You do have to discipline yourself though, and sometimes you do get fed up, and sometimes you kind of lose sight of what you're doing, and that's okay as well, because we are all only human, we are not machines. So if you have any sort of reservations about your body or whatever, I highly recommend trying out. In the UK we have Slimming World, we have Weight Watchers, we have Scottish Slimmers as well, which is quite popular. And they all kind of work off roughly the same basis. They have different names for things and slightly different ways of doing it, but it all boils down to the same thing. But say for me, it's not really, I know what I should be eating. It's making myself eat those things, knowing that someone is going to weigh me on a set of scales. That is what I need. And I've just found that's what works for me. I'm getting kind of fed up colouring these leaves in now. I'm going to have to change to something else. I don't really know what's going on in here. It's all getting a bit kind of, I'll whack some of this down as well. See how we go with that. Pop that in there as well. There we go. Just talking about weight as well, I had a really good laugh. I twice in the space of the last week and a half, I have had people ask me if I'm pregnant. Not because I look pregnant, I just like to point out, not because I look pregnant. I was complaining that I had a really sore back. I think I've pulled something. I don't know whether it was when I was out in the farm or whether it's been out running, but my back has been aching, and it's not hindered me in any way, it's just annoying. And one of my acquaintances said to me, oh, my friend had a really sore back when she was pregnant. Are you sure you're not pregnant? I was like, I'm definitely not pregnant. So that was fine, never thought anything else of it. And I went to get my nails done, and the lady that does my nails, Wendy, she is lovely, she's a really nice woman. I was saying to her that I'd hit a weird pattern of not sleeping very well. Now, I do have insomnia, I don't sleep well anyway, I am not a good sleeper, but it kind of comes in episodes. I can be fine for a month or two, and then all of a sudden I'm just not getting enough sleep. And I'd said to her I was in this pattern of waking up at 2:30 in the morning and not being able to get back to sleep. And she said, oh, maybe you're pregnant, because that's what happened to me when I was pregnant. I kept waking up during the night, and I was like, oh, for goodness sake. Oh dear, I wish all these people would stop saying these things to me. So I was like, I'm going to get a complex. And I said to her, I was like, why do I look pregnant? And she went, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. But I was only joking with her. I wasn't being serious. But it was the expression on her face. She thought she'd like really, really, like upset me. And I was like, I'm only kidding. So yeah, that's been a bit weird. But I think people have got babies on the brain just now. And I'm not really wanting to have any babies right now, so I think I'll just stay as I am. Thank you very much, and complain about my sore back. Right, I've just kind of gone with the leafy idea down here. I don't really know what's going on in this bottom part, but it's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. I'm assuming that these are flowers. I don't really know what's going on here, but they look like flowers to me, so we'll leave it at that. This is definitely a flower. Do you know that way I'm starting to kind of be like, okay. And then down the bottom here, this one, I think this is all flowers down here. I'm going to fill in these stalks. Oh, that's all good and well. All good and well. I'm starting to see a lot of festive things in the shops now. And for those of you that don't know, I absolutely love Christmas. Like it's not just Christmas. I love the month of December in general, because it's where it really starts to get cold here. November, for the last little while especially, has been very, very mild, and we don't really get the proper cold weather until into December, and I love it when it's proper cold. So I always look forward to December. I like it. It's a nice month, and obviously there's Christmas in it as well, and it's just a nice time to spend time with family, because most people have some sort of time off, which is really good. So I really, really enjoy it. So when it comes to Christmas, I'm right into Christmas. I love it. It makes me happy. So I'm starting to, you know, things like the catalogue came through for the festive food that you can have. You know, you can order it and go and pick it up like the day before or whatever. That came through in the mail, and you know, I'm starting to see things coming into the shops now, and it's making me feel really sort of nice and festive. Quite like it, because really December's not that far away, and I know most of you are going, shh, we don't speak about that, but I really enjoy it, so I'm quite looking forward to it. We've decided we're going to have a festive party this year. We haven't had, since we've moved here, we haven't really had any sort of social gatherings at the house, and I think it's nuts, because our house absolutely 100% lends itself to parties. It really, really does. Our kitchen is big and square. It's like a typical farmhouse kitchen, and there is a great big serving hatch. Now when I say big, it's like 1.5 meters across, and the serving hatch goes into our lounge. So if you have music or anything on, you can hear it in the kitchen when it's coming, you know, when it's floating through from the living room, and the living room goes straight onto our kitchen. So it's a really nice big, with the door open, it's a really nice big open space, and it's perfect for entertaining. And I'm just like, yeah, we totally need to have a party in this house. So we've decided we're going to do it this Christmas. We're going to invite some folks over. We're going to have some good food, and have ourselves a little shindig, so that'll be fun. I do like a good party. In our old house at the last farm we lived on, we used to have parties all the time. And again, that house was really good for parties. The kitchen was really big, and there was a door out to the garden, which in the summer was amazing as well, because you could have barbecues and people could slope in and out the house. So that was excellent, and we thoroughly enjoyed entertaining. I do like entertaining. I always find that I end up spending a lot of time in the kitchen, and it was actually a standing joke with some of my university friends, because again, we were quite a sociable bunch and we used to have a lot of get-togethers, and the joke went that if you can't find Jem at a party, then just go into the kitchen, because she'll be there, because she'll either be eating something or cooking something. And I used to go into other people's houses and like raid their fridges and knock up, you know, some sort of party food to keep everyone going, or just, you know, for something a bit different. And it got to be a bit of a standing joke. So there is now an album of photographs, and it is just me, usually slightly worse for wear. Imagine that. Cooking in random people's kitchens. I can see everyone, you know, that got to the point where it was like, right, okay, before we go any further, let's get the photograph of Jem in the kitchen doing whatever it is she's doing. So I have a full album of them now, which is quite funny, it's quite nice. But it's true, it's absolutely true. And again, I think it's the Italian in me. We like to feed people, we like to nurture people and look after people. And Italians do that by plying them with wine and feeding them. That is just what we do. And it's quite funny because my mum is not Italian. She is Scottish, and even she does it. And I don't know whether she's picked that up from my dad's side, or whether she was like that as well, and that was why dad, you know, was attracted to her. But she's exactly the same. My mother is always in the kitchen. Every time I phone her, see, even if I just phone for a chat, it does not matter what time of day it is, my mother is in the kitchen. I spoke to her earlier this afternoon, and I was actually phoning about Christmas food for Christmas Day, which is ridiculous. And I phoned her just to see, you know, what she was thinking of one thing and another. And the first thing she said to me when she picked up the phone was, "Guess what I'm doing?" And the standard answer to that is, she's usually in the kitchen cooking something. And I was like, "You're in the kitchen cooking something?" And she's like, "Yes, I am, but do you know what I'm cooking?" And I was like, "Mum, seriously, how am I going to know what you're cooking? Could be anything." And it turns out she was making Christmas fudge. I was like, oh god, it's a bit early for me. But she was happy. So yeah, I'm afraid that's another family trait, and that's probably why I struggle with my weight so much. But anyway, yeah, she was a happy camper making her Christmas fudge, so it's absolutely fine. So yeah, I have this need to feed people, and I do wonder sometimes that my husband is the weight that he is, because really he should be the size of a bus by now. But he's really good. This is one thing that, and another thing that I really respect him for, is he's really good at self-regulating. When he starts to get a bit porky, he seems to be able just to cut back what he's eating by himself, and, you know, not really give it much thought. He just does it, and slowly he'll drop a couple of pounds, and I'm like, how do you do that? How do you do that? I've never been able to figure it out. And he eats so much, like so much. I'm really liking this blue colour and the way it's turning out. It's really, really pretty. I think it's, once I finish this, I'm going to zoom out and show you it next to all the other colours. It's just working out lovely. It really is. I'm so happy to be colouring this picture. So I've been wanting to do something in this book for ages, but it's one of those ones, like I was saying last time, I have so many books now, and I actually sat, after that conversation last time, I actually sat and sorted them out, and there are a frightening number that I haven't done any colouring in at all. And as I said, that's why I'm not going to buy any more books, and I'm just going to spend some time doing some work in some of the ones that I haven't done anything in. And this was one of the books, because I absolutely loved our other book as well, and I just love the style of the drawings. It's right up my street. So I've been kind of itching to do this for a little while. Plus as well, I seem to have done an awful lot in Hannah Carlson books and also Johanna Basford's books this last little while, and I kind of just wanted to get away from that and do something a bit more, not more interesting, but just something different. I enjoyed working in Anamorphia when we did our fish colour along. That was great. And I just, again though, that went on for so long, I just wanted something a little bit different. I wanted to take a break from that too, so that was kind of my logic. It was a toss-up between this or a Bennett Klein picture, so I might do Bennett Klein next, because I love his work too. It is suitably quirky also. Just get this filled in under here. I'm going to make this one really dark. Really dark. I'll get that done. There we go. I'm getting peace from Pup now because my husband's in. She's away through to see what he's doing. So I'm just looking around to see how many dogs I've actually got in the cave with me. I've got the other two. Jack Russell's curled up in a cushion in the corner fast asleep. She's hardly moved. And Jock, my older collie, he's on the floor beside me here, and he's just having a snooze. They do tend to be quite quiet at this time of night, the dogs. It must just be like a winding down time for them. Right, I'm going to zoom out now and show you this just so that you can see the bigger picture. It's coming along quite nicely. It looks pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, so I've got like a light, a medium and a dark brown, but I've deliberately not picked them in the same hue, it's so that I can have just a bit of variation, because brown's one of those colours where, you know, I can get a bit kind of samey. I also want to keep some white as well, because these owls do have a lot of sort of white flecks in their coat plumage. So we want to keep some of that white, just to show that. Again, I'm really not being all that careful here. That's one of the joys of these pencils. Didn't really plan this out. Before I started, I looked online at, you know, different types of owls and their plumage, just to give me an idea of what I might want to do. But I didn't spend a huge amount of time on it. I just feel, I don't know what it is, I mean, there's not exactly any rules for it with colouring chats, but I just feel they should be more sort of relaxed, informal affairs rather than, you know, this is how we do this and this is what we're doing with this. But hey, maybe that's just me. I thought maybe use this round his eyes, give him some kind of paler eyebrows, and this part round here as well. Would be nice. I'll zoom you back in again. Oh, maybe that was a little bit too far. Oh, goodness me. Pencil's round the wrong way as well. Not doing very well here. There we go. Give that there. See how this goes down. It's quite a delicate shade of brown. I quite like it. He looks a bit serious, doesn't he? I suppose when you're an owl, it's kind of hard to not look serious or startled. There's no in between. There we are, so using a darker brown now. This actually looks quite purpley, that's worried me slightly. Didn't look like this in my swatch book. I may have done myself a disservice here. I hope not. He's a bit uneven as well, just the way the drawing is. It's not very it's not very symmetrical, which has kind of caused me problems picking out the where I want to put these colours. Yeah, that's quite purpley. Okay. It's not really what I had in mind at all, but it's a bit like now. Get colour down. I'm going to have to bring that all the way down there, I think. It looks, now that I look up at the monitor, it looks really red on the screen. Really, really red. I'm not too happy with this at all. I think I'm going to have to take my darker brown and go back over it, which I will deal with just shortly. Put this one in first. See, I don't have the same lines that I've got on this side. That's annoying. See, that's a better colour, like that one. See, I've gone quiet now because I'm concentrating. Oh. There we go. That's a bit more what I was going for. I've got this chocolate brown here, and I think I'm going to just put some of that over the top of that sort of reddy colour. I might have to change that to something else, I don't know. We'll see. I'll see how it goes. Just fill in some of these gaps here. That's another good thing about these pencils, is that if you wait until they dry, you can go back over things. You know, you can add in a bit more of a swish of colour if you feel it's not quite what you were looking for. And I certainly think that that is what I'm going to end up doing with this chap. I'm going to have to put some... See, that looks really orange now as well. I am just not happy at all with this. Ah, that's a shame. We'll keep going. I can hear my husband in the biscuit tin. Back to what I was saying earlier, yeah. Oh my, that's funny. Right, where is my dark chocolate? Dark chocolate. So I'm going to chuck in some of that there. And then I am going to take the willow and I'm just going to blend that in there. They do mix well together, these pencils as well, you know, they blend well together. And you can do that before you start laying your water down if you're, you know, if you're certain of what colours and things that you want. It's quite easily done. I tend to start in the lighter areas, because if you start in the dark areas you can end up, you know, pulling the dark colour too far into your lighter areas, and then you lose like your highlight, which is 9 times out of 10 not what you're going for. That's pretty good. I'll bring that brown down there as well. I'm trying to keep them as even as possible. Now already, now that I've done that section, that red part in the middle isn't looking quite as bad, which is great. However, I am not convinced about the rest of it. This really pale shade here, this is kind of what I want under his eyes to look like. So, and then fade that out to white, so that this part stands out. So I'm only going over that really gently, it's only like a tickle of colour. Just fade that out to nothing. That is, yes, that is perfect. That is exactly what I was going for. Now let's see if I can replicate this on the other side. Easier said than done sometimes. I'll try that. I can always go back over it. Oh no, there we go, we're good. We are good. Excellent. Well, that's made me a bit happier. Right. Nope, still too damp. Just getting ahead of myself a little bit there. So for this underneath bit, I'm gonna just... see, I'm doing it again. I'm explaining what I'm doing. I'm so used to doing colour alongs. I'm supposed to be just chatting, aren't I? Anyway, I'm going to start dark underneath, because this is like under his chin, isn't it? Yeah, I had the strangest message on comments on one of my videos the other day from a lady who had asked where I lived, where I was from, and when I told her, it turns out the town where I was born, she lived there for 32 years, and one of her kids must have gone to university at St Andrews, which isn't far from here. And I was just like, oh wow, I mean, what are the chances of that? Not only did she live in the town that I grew up in, which is not a big place, is really not a big place, but she also knows the area where I am now because of her children. I just thought that was insane. She stays in Holland now. It's not like she's like just down the road or anything. And I just thought to myself, what are the mathematical probabilities of that occurring? Think about it. This is a YouTube channel. This lady has gone on to YouTube, and not only has she gone on to YouTube, but she's specifically looking for either art videos or colouring videos. So that narrows things down quite considerably already, because as most of you will probably be aware, the art community and the colouring community on YouTube is tiny in comparison to some of the other subject matter like video gaming. So you know, that's quite niche in itself. So there's that. And not only does she look for art videos, but she picks out of about a gajillion my teeny tiny little channel and asks where I'm from, because obviously she recognises an accent. I mean, really, what are the chances of that happening? I'd love to know the odds on that. That is kind of freakish. So yeah, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of weird at the same time. But it's actually quite nice. It gave me a little nice warm feeling inside. It warmed my cockles. So that was a random occurrence. My friend was saying to me the other day, I was talking to her earlier, that she went for a training course. She is training to be a dispensary in a pharmacy. A dispenser in a dispensary. Yeah, that's the one. And there are 11 people on this sort of course thing that she's on. And all of them have worked at the football club that my friend helps out with at the weekend. She works there at the weekends, and they have all worked there. That's 11 of them, and they're not all from the area, which I think is really, really freaky. I don't know what all these weird occurrences. I don't know. It's just really strange. I think there must be a full moon just now or something. I don't know. I was like 11 of you would maybe understand one or two because it is a local football club and people stay in the area, blah blah. But these people, some of them aren't from the area. It is very, very, very strange. Right, I'm going over this with my chocolate brown now. That's the wrong one. Well, that's just not going to be helpful at all. Actually, I might give this a chance. We'll see what we can do here. Brown it down a little bit. I don't know if that's an actual turn of phrase, but I've just made it one. Brown it down. And I'm also going to pop another layer of this palest colour, which is the willow. I'm going to make this a lot darker in here. There I go again, I'm explaining what I'm doing. I have no idea how long I've been sitting here. I think it is forever because I've had to stop the camera a couple of times and the timer's reading 41 minutes, so I think I'm well over an hour. So I'm maybe going to fix this and I shall stop for the time being. I may have to fix this off camera. It's going to keep bugging me. Now that's interesting because a second layer of that has made that a much deeper colour, and just using that tiny bit of chocolate brown has really helped. Okay, I feel like I'm getting somewhere with it now. I can feel the paper starting to buckle though, which upsets me slightly. That's better, and that's much better. And again, I'm just going to go back in here. See how much warmer that looks because I've done... Oh, you can't see it because I'm off camera. That looks so much warmer just with that extra layer. This picture looks awful. See when you see it in the monitor there, now that I'm looking over it, it looks terrible. It doesn't look like good handiwork at all. I promise you it is though. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. Let's have a wee zoom out and we can see him in Ollie's glory. Yeah, he's looking quite reasonable from a distance. He looks a bit like a tiger. He's kind of stripy up here. Oh my goodness. Anyway, that is us for this evening, or this afternoon if you're watching during the day or whatever. Thank you very much for listening to my ramblings, guys, and I shall see you all in my next video. Oh, that just reminds me, before I go, I do want to show you my finished picture from my last colouring chat, because I finished it off in my own time, and I know there was a few people that wanted to see it, so I'm just going to pop him out the way. And here is Mr. Frog finished in all of his glory. I was really pleased with the way that this turned out, and I used the gold gel pen that I was talking about. I used it on all of his scales, round his gem and his little kind of headdressy thing there. But I was really pleased with the way that this picture turned out. It's just absolutely lovely, and I'm quite chuffed that I got it finished as well. So there you go. Okay, right, that's me this time, guys. Thank you for listening to my ramblings, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, do all that kind of cool stuff. That would be amazing, and we shall see you soon in the colour cave. Bye for now, guys.